Hey guys, it's Erica Galinas with the Mike McCady Group at Century 21 Affiliated here for our weekly market update. Well, I guess monthly, but we do this every week, but for different towns. So this month, take it back, this week, we are doing last month's number for Dyer, so we can kind of see where we are. I did kind of an end of the year wrap up at the beginning of the year about the Dyer market, but here's our current numbers here. So for the month of January, they sold 18 units of real estate in Dyer, all of Dyer. Not a huge number. It's also the weather's been kind of lousy. There's not a lot of inventory, so I don't think that's too low. Total volume of 4.9 million. Average sales price $276,454 of those houses in January. Average days on market 28 days, so less than a month. List to sales price was only 89.41%. But I looked into it. There was a listing that it was a fixer-upper, it shall remain nameless, looked like a fine house, but it had been on the market for 107 days, and it sold for 71% of its list price. So that kind of dragged our averages down. 77% of all of the houses sold in January in Dyer sold in less than 30 days at 99% of the list price. So those numbers are fine. There was just kind of this outlier fixer-upper out there. So in terms of comparisons for last month's numbers, so this is December, again, we're kind of in a quiet wintertime market, but they sold 27 units in December in the whole town of Dyer. This is all kinds, condos and everything. Total volume of 8.3 million. Average sales price about $309,000. Days on market 44 days, so a little bit slower. List to price 98.19, so a little bit lower. But it was almost double what the volume was in January. So 18 to 27, that's not really half of 27. It's close, but the difference in the sales price at 309 down to the 276, it's about $33,000. Again, that's been dragged down because of this fixer-upper. They had on the market, like I said, for over 100 days. It started at a much higher price, finally ended up selling at $100,000. So that kind of skewed it as well. We're probably only lower, maybe $10,000 or $12,000 on the non-fixer-upper regular properties. So not a big deal. Consistent with what we've seen now in Cherville, St. John, the different areas around here. It was just January, and nobody has any money because it's Christmas, and everybody's tired, and it's snowing outside, and February numbers are probably going to be similar because it continues to snow outside, and it's terribly cold. But these numbers seem right on target. Again, our biggest problem is no inventory, which is driving prices up and putting us in a position where there's 18 houses. So interesting. So active listings right now, all of Dyer, from all the way up in the north, all the way down in Hanover Township, there are 13 homes for sale. That's all. That is not very much when you think of how big Dyer is. Again, some of the averages here are a little kooky. The average sales price per listing in Dyer right now is $854,000. But as you can imagine, that's skewed a little bit. Five of those 13 listings are over $1 million. So anywhere from 1.1 to ones at almost $1.9 million. They're showing an average days on market of 102 days. Again, that's very high, but it includes these $1 million homes, which always take longer than you'd think to sell. There's just less buyers for them. So if we take out those $1 million homes, the average listing price is $287,000, average days on market 45 days. So that puts us right where we are right now. Average sales price in January is $276, the average list price is $287. It's practically the same number. We are, steady right now, which is good. No new construction listed. Whether we will see more in Dyer, I assume we will at some point. But right now, nobody's doing anything. Too cold to dig a hole. They have to sell the inventory that they have now. And only two of the condos, two were sold were condos, townhouses, which includes like those duplex properties and those properties that have been built west of town, right on the state line. Those there's only two of them. Again, I'm pretty sure they're going to build more. Pending listings, so stuff that's on the market, have a buyer, they haven't closed yet, they're still waiting for mortgages or whatever. 30 pendings, which is, puts us on par with that December. Average listing price for those pendings is $318,000. We'll know what they sell for once they close. They'll kind of filter in over the next month or so. Average days on market, only 15 days for these pending listings. So what this means is that the houses that are listed that are priced well, I mean, even the cruddiest house can go quickly as long as it's priced well. But these homes are being, I don't want to say overpriced because obviously they're selling, but they're being priced at the higher end. They're selling because there's, again, only 13 houses for sale. So if there's one house that, you know, is priced well and hits all the check boxes everybody wants, we're going to get multiple offers. We're going to sell it over 100%. There are, of those pendings, only 3 new construction. They're all over in Emerald Crossing. They're all duplexes, townhomes, I guess, depending on how you want to define it. Again, we're just going to have to see what happens with new construction in Dyer. We don't have a lot of land left. There's, you know, what's out there has pretty much been built on, and what hasn't been built on yet are farmers. And most of them are still actively farming it and don't want to give up that land. 8 condos, townhouses in the pendings, 22 single family, nothing significant there. I'm interested to see what the spring rush is going to bring in 2 ways. A, this new construction like we talked about. Are they going to dig 1 million holes and list 100 new construction houses in Dyer over the next 3 months? Don't know. Once, you know, the snow finally stops and it gets a little bit warmer, which should be happening this weekend, we are going to see over the next 30 days to 45 days, again, kind of depending on the weather, what kind of activity we expect for the spring and summer market, because there were a lot of people over the past year, because of the unpleasantness and some different things, that wanted to go but didn't want to deal with moving, for whatever reason. They didn't want to handle it. Are those houses going to come on the market this spring and summer? We will see. At some point, this inventory problem has to break. It is wonderful for sellers because your prices are really high, but the problem is the sellers are also buyers. And if they want to stick around here, if they want to buy a townhouse, or if they want to just downsize or move up, the prices for those homes are equally as high, wiping out, in some cases, this extra that they got for selling their house. So at some point, that's going to break. I don't know if it's going to be in March. I don't know if it's going to be in 2027. I don't know. But at some point, that wave is going to crest. I don't think that necessarily means it's going to be a huge downfall. I think we will stay stable, just because so many of these gains have been nice and even, nice and stable. So it rarely just, you know, craters, barring some bizarre catastrophe. But at some point, possibly this year, we will see that inventory problem break. We will see sellers listing their homes, and then everything will just kind of even out. We're going to flatten the curve, for lack of a better word, in the real estate market, because again, it's great for sellers, but sellers are buyers, and it's terrible for buyers. So at some point, we have to do something before our real estate market just gridlocks. The other interesting thing, and I noticed this last week, and I'm going to check going forward. So we had 27 sold in December. We had 18 sold in January. We have active listings, 13, pending listings, 30. So that's like, you know, 80 or 100 houses. None of these are foreclosures. Very interesting. The Dyer market, you know, after the real estate meltdown, you know, a decade ago, there was a lot of foreclosures in Northgate. There are a couple different communities that got hit hard with foreclosures. There are none right now. We will see what happens. There's obviously been reports of people being unable to pay their mortgage and things like that with everything that's been going on. I don't know that banks are going to be so anxious to rip those homes back out from underneath these people. They ended up with actually a lot of headaches last time. Did not make nearly as much money as they thought they would. So we will keep an eye on the foreclosure situation. I don't ever want anybody to be kicked out of their house. I understand, particularly in a time like this, how screwed up everything is. But it is a market indicator. And the fact that we have no foreclosures for now is interesting. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. I mean, in the one way, it's bad because we want to turn some of this inventory over. So if we have people that are anticipating moving, let's get them on the market now, because we have these buyers. We want to keep our property values nice and stable and get those moving. But on the other hand, foreclosures are not necessarily good for neighborhoods. They're not terrible either, but it creates unevenness in the real estate market, because you have a bunch of, investor type people who buy them and flip them or rent them out. And that changes the faces of neighborhoods, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. So that is something I'm going to keep an eye on as we start to exit some of these lifestyle changes that have happened in 2020 and into 2021, to see if those banks are going to pursue those foreclosures. And we will see if they're listed, and if they are, what kind of impact they're having. So Dyer, too long, didn't read. Everything's super stable. Everything looks great. If you're a seller, Now is the time. Beat the spring rush. Call me, text me anytime, 219-765-2062. Send me an email, hsbyerica@gmail.com. I can also help you guys on the buyer end. I work all over this area. You know, we have offices in Florida and Wisconsin and other places. If you are a buyer looking to move into Dyer, please also call me, text me, email me, comment down below, send me a DM, you know, whatever you want to do. I've worked in Dyer quite a bit. There are certain neighborhoods that have different characteristics than others, and we should be able to find something that works for your budget. So that's what I got for this week. I will be here, what is today? I actually be here tomorrow for Ask the Agent. And then next week, we're going to be talking about, interesting as always, Crown Point. So I will see you guys then. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.